any of you ever wondered what it would be like to have another you? A person in your everyday life that looked like you, acted like you, and did everything the same as you? This is a question or set of questions that I'm fascinated by, and quite frankly, I've always thought about it. I am, as you probably could have guessed, not a twin, but I've always questioned what it would be like to wake up in the morning and see someone who looks exactly like me without standing in front of a mirror. I've wondered what it would be like to have people look at me and then look at my twin and pause for a moment and realize that indeed we look exactly alike. I've wondered what it would be like to go throughout my daily life sort of connected with someone else. Between twin telepathy, their developmental struggles, and the similarities they share when grown up in two different homes, identical twins seem to be more and more fascinating the more that is discovered. My job today is to inform you all on what some twins go through and the differences of everyday life that they face differently than most people. To tell you what twin telepathy is like, what developmental struggles they face, and the similarities twins share who have grown up in two different homes. To begin, I will cover, in my opinion, the most interesting topic, twin telepathy. According to Guy Playfair, author of Twin Telepathy, as many as 30% of identical twins appear to experience telepathic interconnection. British scientist Francis Galton published a short article on twins in 1876, commenting that he witnessed to make the same remarks on the same equation, or begin singing the same song at the same moment. In a study done by 3 interviewers, a total of 12 out of 35 participants believed that they could communicate telepathically with their twin. They made statements such as, "We both think the same things at the same time, and I can hear what her feelings are. And when my twin goes out, I can imagine that he or she is doing and see the place described." From this, I was concluded that telepathy happened frequently and became closely connected between twins during a crisis. After several dramatic accounts, the term crisis telepathy was made. For example, twin Martha Burke felt as though she had been cut in two one day and searing pain occurred across her chest. Hours later, she discovered her twin had died in a plane crash halfway across the world. In another example, a lady was out and about, and out of nowhere, her leg became agonizingly painful as bruises spread up the left side of her body. Later, she discovered that her twin had been in a car crash that day and at the very same time 400 miles away. From my own experience, I have 2 really good friends that happen to be identical twins, and they are here with me today. Their names are Kristen and Jamie Schubert. I asked them about this factor and if it came up in their lives, and they were keen on this telepathy being involved in their daily lives. One of the twins said in one of the studies I shared with you all, my twin friend said the same thing at the same time. Even if it's about the most random topic or at the most random time, they will somehow blurt out the same thing. One thing all of our friends always joke about is how the twins have to answer everything twice, because one will walk in the room and ask someone something totally random, and her sister will walk in after the other twin leaves and ask the exact same thing in the exact same way. Now that you have learned some of the basic facts on twin telepathy, let's look at the similarities of identical twins who are raised apart. On a study done by the University of Minnesota to research identical twins that were raised apart, researchers found that when twins were reunited, they often felt as though they had known each other their entire lives. The most interesting example I found from this study was their research done on the Jim twins, who had been separated at 4 weeks and were apart for 39 years. Their similarities when they were reunited were remarkable. Both were named Jim. They both had married a woman named Linda, divorced, and then married another woman named Betty. However, one Jim was on his 3rd marriage. They both had childhood dogs named Toy and sons named James, one named James Allen with 2 L's and the other named James Allen with 1 L. Both had been firemen and sheriffs. Both bit their nails, suffered from migraines, smoked cigarettes, and drank Miller Lite beer. Each were 6 feet tall and weighed exactly 180 pounds. Both had regularly driven light blue Chevrolets. Their handwritings were nearly identical. One of the most remarkable shared details was that they both had a compulsion to build a circular white bench around a tree in their yards during the time right before they met. They both left love notes to their wives throughout their houses, and to top it all off, they died from the same illness on the exact same day. The one thing that was different about them was that they wore their hair differently. And here's a picture of the Jim twins. They look identical. This is just one example of 68 cases the University of Minnesota has extensively studied. From the 5 other stories I read on twins just like the Jim twins, I was in disbelief seeing how similar they have been even as they were raised apart. So far, we have looked at at twin telepathy and twins who are raised apart. Now let's look at the struggles identical twins have of forming their own identities. According to Burlingham in the book Identity and Intimacy Between Twins, the more similar the twins are in appearance, the longer it takes the mother to distinguish between them and make an attachment to them as separate individuals. Cohen, Dibble, and Graves suggested that parental behavior is the most important determinant of the child's socialization. Several authors, such as Black and Campbell in 1974, Burlingham in 1952, and Mittler in 1971, have all indicated that identical twins have less incentive to learn to speak because they understand each other adequately through nonverbal communication. In reference to Burlingham and Leonard, twins find it very difficult to form separate identities, which leads to a term called unit identity. This means that twins have a hard time communicating to the outside world because they are so comfortable with only interacting with each other. That all usually only comes about when the twins are treated as a unit by their parents instead of individuals, which also leads to issues of separation between identical twins as they grow older. The twinning bond is described as the psychological thread between twins. It is suggested by Tabor and Joseph in 1961. That states it begins at conception and continues consciously or unconsciously throughout the lives of twins. Although, with this being said, overall it is commonly found by researchers that the development of twins is determined by the parents in whichever way they decide to raise them. And this is a biological viewing of twinning and how the cellular structures create twins, both identical, conjoined, and fraternal. When I asked my friends who are twins about this concept, they both admitted to having hard times being separated with each other. They said that they have never been apart for more than 24 hours at one time. They have always done everything the same, taken the same classes, played the same sports, and have had all the same friends. Even this year, they got separated into 2 different sorority houses during rush, and without even thinking twice, one immediately dropped hers so she could re-rush and get into the same house as her sister. At one point, one of them had a boyfriend and the other one didn't, and it was always a common joke that he had to date both of them because the other twin was always there too. They said it's almost embarrassing to admit that they both have a hard time being apart, especially with the fact that it'll be difficult for them down the road when they're forced to go their separate ways. That is, if they ever let that happen. To conclude, my purpose today was to inform you all to the best of my ability, without actually being a twin, of what it's like to be a twin. To tell you what twin telepathy is like, what developmental struggles they face, and the similarities twins share who have grown up in 2 different homes. Often, I wonder what it's like to be a twin, being surrounded by someone that is identical to you almost every moment of the day. I hope today I gave you the opportunity to put yourselves in shoes, unlike the majority of people, and understand what it